For me, I wanted to do pastoral ministry because I've always been passionate about working with people and helping people. I didn't know exactly in which way I wanted to do it, whether it would be mission or working as a social worker or just helping people in a different way, until God told me that I should be a pastor.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, ever since it's felt like my calling that I want to do pastoral ministry, interacting with people rather than just preaching to them, but having conversations and seeing what they're actually.
That's very important, because in the very early days of pastoral ministries, we always say that the intern should do as much visiting of the church members as possible. And what that does is that not only does it help you to build relationship and also to develop the skills of building relationships with the church members, but it also gives you the opportunity to listen to the issues that are concerning the individual church members. Reflecting back over the years, I remember my own calling to be a pastor, and in all fairness, it started somehow or the other, and I know you're going to smile when I say this, but it started with a dream that I had, and and this overwhelming feeling that this is what God wants me to do. Okay, so strong was that feeling that not doing it would feel wrong for me. Okay, how was that? How was the feeling of the call for you?
Well, I just couldn't imagine myself doing anything else. I've been questioning what I should do after finishing high school, which career path I should take, and nothing else felt right. This was the only thing, and I kept praying about it, and the more I prayed, the more sure I was that this is what I wanted to do. In our classes at Newbold, we learn a lot about how to read the Bible, how to interpret different texts, but also how to work with people. And I feel like that's what prepared me most for ministry. One of the classes we took at Newbold was Pastoral Psychology and Counseling, which taught us how people think and how to approach people depending on who they are. Which I think helped me a lot in interpreting my own emotions and also seeing how other people are feeling and how I can talk to them.
Did you feel that there was a period of time where you had to get used to your own feelings about speaking to others and what you were taught and implementing what you were taught?
I feel like it was a bit of both. Learning one thing theoretically is one thing, but not everyone is going to follow the same pattern. So I feel like sometimes we need to listen to our own feelings about certain situations, and that's definitely what I've had to do sometimes. Learning about how to know what I should apply was also a big part of it, because not everything is going to be applicable to everyone.
I remember when I first started in pastoral ministries, one of the greatest challenges that I had, I was in my 30s at the time, and speaking with senior church members in their early 80s who had numerous physical complaints, it was really hard for me to imagine and empathize with what they were going through. However, I learned how to listen to what they were saying and simply appreciate what they were saying. When you first arrived here at Reading West, there were a number of assignments that were given to us by Newbold College that you had to complete within certain things within each semester that you were here. Some of the things I do remember on a in-church basis, there were things like leading the Sabbath school lesson, preaching a sermon once a semester, There was also things like taking part in life experiences. So, yeah, I smile and I say that I know you enjoyed the child blessing. You also took part in a baptism service, if I'm not mistaken. You also did quite a number of visits with church members. And I do remember that very first one that we did, and in all fairness, I didn't realize how challenging that very first visit that we did to the hospital, how that was going to be, but you did very well in that. I have to say you did very well. You also took part in business meetings. Now, how did you experience those practicalities of pastoral ministries?
It was definitely challenging at the beginning. Coming to such a big church from smaller churches that I've attended before, it was quite challenging to do all these activities when there were so many people around me.
Another activity that you did here at Reading West, I think it was very early, very soon after you arrived here at Reading West, if my memory serves, is that we had an end-of-year business meeting. And in a church the size of Reading West, I'm sure you'll smile with me that there's a number of reports that have to be made. Now, I do believe that this is one of the first business meetings, and it must have been quite an experience for you to not only to chair a business meeting, but also to go through the formalities of asking for the report, moving that the report be made, and seconding, and then asking for comments, and then chairing the comment. How did that whole experience, yes, I'm not surprised that you're smiling, how did that experience take you?
Yes, I remember that. It was quite unexpected for me. I didn't expect to be doing something like this so early on. And it was definitely a challenge. I wasn't really sure what I was doing at the time. I really appreciate the help and guidance that you provided. I remember making a mistake, and that's something that I'm probably going to remember for a long time. But not because I made a mistake, but because everyone was so supportive, which is something that I really appreciated as someone who was just starting my ministry in that way. Because everyone in the congregation who was listening was very supportive and telling me that I'm doing well and smiling and not being judgmental about me just starting or not knowing what I'm doing. Definitely something I really appreciated. And it was a good opportunity as well to learn something, because I've never done something like that before. Something specific was learning how to adapt to a whole different culture. The churches where I grew up were very traditional, where everyone is just standing quietly. You stand up, you sit down, there are no emotions. And when I came here for the first time, everything was loud. People were happy to see each other, greeting, smiling, singing, dancing, which was a whole new experience for me. And I've definitely learned how to talk to people who are from a whole different culture than I, and how to approach them. And also with such a big community, I've learned how to be able to talk to people where they are specifically, because even in big congregations, people are still individuals. And I've definitely learned how to more easily navigate big congregations, because that's not something I experienced before. In my life, I've always had smaller churches. So I didn't even know that it was possible to get to an individual level when there are so many people who are in one community.
Thank you for that experience, and I can definitely see that I saw you growing out of yourself, out of your kind of boundary comfort zone, and speaking with other church members. It was a blessing having you here. We've had quite a number of Newbold students over the 7 years that I've been here at Reading West, and the benefit that you and all of the other students bring is that it opens up an avenue of care and compassion for the church members who are now see themselves as very instrumental in your growth as a person and as a pastor. As you rightly said, and I smiled when you said it, that the church members here are happy and they are accepting and they like to encourage you, especially when they see that you're doing something that you may never have done before. The first time you stood up to preach in the pulpit, I remember you had a lot of amens in that sermon. I think it was only a 10-15 minute sermon, but you had a lot of amens in your sermon, so appreciate that. I think one of the things that we wanted to share with you and the other Newbold students as well is the variety of situations that you'll find yourself in. Did you feel that you benefited from some of those conversations that we had?
Yes, definitely. I would say that was one of my favorite things about having my placement here with you. I've learned through having those conversations and case studies, I've learned how to think critically as a future pastor, not just as a member of the congregation, but as a future pastor in different situations. Because there's so many things that can happen and do happen that many people don't even think about, many that I've never thought about before you've presented them to me. But I've definitely learned how to think critically and how to apply my knowledge in specific situations. I've really appreciated that. What I like about the way Newbold trains its pastors is that we get both theoretical parts but also practical. We get to learn how to approach different biblical questions, which are also going to help in our ministry. But there's this theoretical part of Newbold where we go into the Bible, we learn about history, but we also get the more practical parts, like our placement, where we get to learn about the practical part of being a pastor. And we've done many placement reports and assignments about our experience at placement, which I thought was a really good way of doing it. A really good way of learning is always to reflect on what you've done and seeing what you can improve. Excellent.
And one of the things that I've seen in the background going on at Newbold is that in more recent times, we've been having supervisors meetings where we have the supervising pastors, we have lecturers from Newbold, we have Adrian who's in charge of the program, and we also have the ministerial secretaries from both the conferences and the unions taking part in one discussion round table, so that we're able to see how each entity can support the Newbold student and what it is that each entity wants to see happen with the Newbold student. One of the things that we particularly spoke about was reflection. And you mentioned reflection in your answer there, which is good. And one of the very interesting parts of the reflection, for me at least, was being able to take the pastoral experience that you have, your visitation, for example, and then relate that back to a Bible story or an instance in the Bible, so that you're able to relate the biblical experience with both the practical experience and be able to teach so that one informs the other. I find pastoral ministries in the UK within my particular context very exciting, especially when working with young people today. Some of the issues that we're facing in society today, they would not exist in 20 years ago, and they were challenging enough 20 years ago. But today we have new issues that young people are facing, and for me that's a very exciting to present the old message in a new way to meet the challenges of young people today. Tell me something about what do you find that's exciting about pastoral ministries, Adventist pastoral ministries in the 21st century?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that things are changing, times are changing, and there are so many new things that are coming up, and we see that there are so many people who are leaving the church today. I think being a pastor is exciting because we can approach so many different people with the gospel, which is the great news, and being able to talk to people about God, who is our Father, who loves them in this world where the love is not something that many people experience. I think that part of being a pastor is really great, just letting people know that there is someone who loves you.